I wasn't looking for anything special when I took the night shift at the gas station on Route 666. In fact, I wasn't looking for anything at all. I needed a job, and they needed someone willing to sit alone from midnight to 8 a.m. in the middle of the desert where nothing ever really happens. So they said. The manager, a wiry man with sun-scorched skin and a too wide smile, barely looked up from his crossword puzzle when I walked in for the interview. "You ever worked alone at night?" he asked, not waiting for a response. "Good, that's what we need. Quiet type, no fuss." He handed me a laminated sheet with the rules printed in fading red ink. "Follow these, and you'll be fine," he said. I nodded, assuming it was the usual no smoking near the pumps. Don't let drunks hang around. Lock the till before going outside. I didn't read it. That was mistake number one. The gas station sits between nowhere and nothing, 20 miles from the nearest town in either direction. At night, the only light for miles is the flickering sign that buzzes overhead, casting long shadows over the empty lot. Inside, the air always smells like stale coffee and burnt rubber. The security cameras don't work, but no one's ever come to fix them. The front door sticks unless you lift it slightly while pulling, and the radio only picks up 1 a.m. station that plays static interspersed with old country ballads from dead singers. My first shift was uneventful, at least, until 3:33 a.m. That's when the man in the brown duster came in. He didn't speak, didn't look at me, just walked straight to the coffee pot, poured himself a cup, and left a crumpled dollar on the counter. He didn't pay the second night, or the third. On the fourth night, he nodded at me before vanishing into the darkness. That's when I decided to actually read the rules. There were 11. Not the standard fare I expected. Rule number 1, never speak to the man in the brown duster. Rule number 2, if the lights flicker more than 3 times in a row, hide behind the ice cooler and don't come out until they stop. Rule number 3, don't answer the phone after 2 a.m., no matter who it says is calling. Rule number 4, never, under any circumstances, open pump number 4. I remember laughing. It had to be a joke, right? But when I asked the manager about it the next morning, he just stared at me and said, "Don't break rule number 4, before turning back to his crossword. That was the last time I saw him. After that, I worked every night alone, and slowly, the rules stopped being funny. The phone rang at 2:07 a.m. The next night, I let it ring until it stopped. The lights flickered once, twice, then held steady. I stayed away from the cooler, and the man in the brown duster, he started nodding every night now. Sometimes he left coins, sometimes nothing. He never drank the coffee. It stayed full no matter how many cups he poured. I noticed that on night 8, on night 10, a woman came in. Her dress was soaked, though it hadn't rained in days. Her eyes were too wide, her smile too still. "Pumper isn't working," she said. "Could you check it for me?" I froze. "I can't," I replied. "That one's closed." She blinked slowly, tilted her head like a confused bird, and walked backward out the door without another word. The smell of ozone hung in the air after she left. I didn't sleep the next day. I reread the rules. I memorized them. I copied them by hand in my own notebook, and then I started writing my own. Rule number 12, don't trust the mirrors. Rule number 13, always count the coffee cups. Rule number 14, if something's knocking from inside the freezer, don't answer. They weren't on the original list, but they were just as real. I'm not sure if I'm going crazy, or if the rules are changing with me. But I do know this. I'm still alive, and it's because I follow the rules. All of them, especially rule number 4. Because one night I almost broke a hand. That's when things got worse. Much worse. The night I almost broke rule number 4 started like any other. The desert air was dry and still. The neon buzzed overhead like it always did. And the old radio murmured something unintelligible about a lonesome cowboy heading home. I had just finished refilling the napkin holder when the power dipped. Not flickered, dipped. Everything slowed for a second. The hum of the fridge stuttered. The buzz from the sign outside paused. Even my breath felt like it held itself in place. Then everything snapped back. Except now it was colder. The kind of cold that doesn't make sense in the desert. I checked the thermostat, 78 degrees. But my breath came out in fog. That's when the knock came. It wasn't at the door. It came from pump 4. 1, ... 2, 3 knocks. Rhythmic, slow, measured. I froze. I knew what the rule said. Never, under any circumstances, open pump number 4. But I hadn't opened anything. Someone or something was already out there. I moved toward the window slowly. The outside lights were dimmer than they should have been. And standing right next to pump 4 was a little girl in a white dress, barefoot, still, staring at the glass like she could see through the reflection. I don't know how long we looked at each other. It felt like hours, but it was probably seconds. Then she smiled, not the sweet kind of smile a child gives. It was too wide, too rehearsed. The kind you see in paintings that watch you back. I stepped away from the window. My hands were shaking. I grabbed the rules. Reread rule number 4. Never, under any circumstances, open pump number 4. But it didn't say anything about what to do if something's already there. I glanced back. She was gone. I didn't hear her leave. No footsteps. No engine. Just gone. But the knock came again the next night, and the next. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the pump. Always at 3:33 a.m. Always followed by the same eerie silence. I tried telling myself it was my imagination. Sleep deprivation. A side effect of working nights. But then the surveillance monitor, the one that hadn't worked since before I got hired, flickered on for 3 seconds at exactly 3:34 a.m. And there she was, standing still on the grainy black and white feed, staring directly into the camera. My heart jumped into my throat. I yanked the plug, but the monitor kept playing for 1 more second. Then, black screen, dead. I checked the footage later. Nothing. Recorded, like it never happened. That was when I started marking it down. Every night, 3:33 a.m. Knock at pump 4. Sometimes a girl, sometimes nothing. Once, I swear I saw a figure hunched on top of the pump like a gargoyle. It disappeared the moment I blinked. I stopped blinking after that. Coffee helped. So did fear. Fear is better than caffeine, by the way. It keeps you sharper, more alert. One night a trucker came in. Big guy, looked like he hadn't slept in days. He bought an energy drink and asked where the restroom was. I pointed. Before he left, he looked out the window and muttered, "You know she waits out there, right?" I froze. "What did you say?" I asked. He didn't repeat it. He just walked into the dark, slammed his cab door, and drove off like the devil was chasing him. I never saw him again. I started asking questions, quietly, subtle, to the supply guy who drops off snacks on Tuesdays. There's a landline phone behind the counter. Nobody really uses it. It's dusty, yellowing, probably older than I am. I was told by the manager, "Rob, don't answer that phone after midnight. That's rule number 7. But nobody warned me that. It sometimes rings even when it's unplugged. The first time it happened was 3 days after the girl started showing up at pump 4. It rang once short, sharp, the kind of ring that makes your spine straighten without your permission. I stared at it. The cord was unplugged. The wall jack was empty. I didn't move. The ringing stopped. I thought I imagined it. But then it rang again the next night. This time, 3 times. I was about to walk away when I noticed something. Every ring coincided with the knock at pump 4. Ring, knock, ring, knock, ring, knock, in perfect sync, like some twisted duet. That was the night I started feeling like I wasn't working alone. Not really. It's hard to explain, but sometimes I catch movement out of the corner of my eye. Shadows that don't belong to anything. Once, I saw a reflection in the freezer. Door behind Meeks. I was the only one standing there, and the reflection was turned the other way. Another night, I was restocking the gum rack when the front door opened. I didn't hear the chime. That thing dings even if a fly passes through. But when I turned, someone was already inside. A man, middle-aged, tan trench coat, face pale and sagging like clay left in the sun too long. He didn't speak, just walked up to the counter, placed a Polaroid photo face down, and left. I picked it up. My hand shook as I turned it over. It was a picture of me, standing behind the counter, except the store in the picture wasn't the same. It looked older. The shelves were broken. The glass was shattered. And outside the window, there was no desert, just ash, as if something had scorched the earth beyond repair. I flipped it back over. No time stamp, no handwriting, just a white border stained with something dark. I put it in the drawer and never told anyone, but the next night, a new rule appeared in the break room. Rule number 13. If anyone leaves a photograph, don't take it home. I hadn't even mentioned it. Nobody had, but the rule knew. The rules always know. That's what scares me more than anything. These aren't just suggestions. They're reactive, alive. The rules change based on what happens inside this place. Break 1, and the gas station bends. It warps reality around your mistake like it's punishing you, like it's warning the building itself. That's when I realized something else. I'm not the first person to work here alone, and I won't be the last. But not everyone leaves. Some stay, or at least, something that looks like them does. I saw it on the tape. I was rewinding the old VHS security system. Don't ask why we still use tapes. And caught footage from a week before I got hired. A kid, probably my age, standing at the counter. Same shirt, same haircut. I thought it was me. But then he looked up into the camera and smiled. His teeth were sharp. Not metaphorically. Literally like a shark. And his eyes, too wide, too bright. I didn't sleep that day, or the next. I started drinking the coffee we keep for travelers. Burnt, acidic. But it kept me awake enough to notice the difference. The door to the janitor closet opens inward, but one night I saw it open outward just once, before slamming shut. I locked it. I nailed it shut, but it still creaks open when I'm not looking. One night I left a sticky note. Who are you? The next morning, a reply was scrawled in red. You know me. I burned the note, but it didn't matter. Because now I hear whispers when I pass that door. They say things I don't understand. Names, numbers, coordinates maybe. And once, they whispered my name. Slowly, like they were tasting it. That's why I've stopped trying to sleep at the station. I go home during the day, keep the blinds closed, block out the sun, but even then, I feel it, like I've brought something back with me. My dog won't come near me anymore. She growls when I enter the room, sleeps under the bed instead of beside me. My reflection lags in the mirror sometimes. I blink and it doesn't. I move left and it moves right. And I know deep, not the same person who took this job. The station is doing something to me, to my thoughts, to my body maybe. I can't prove it, but my fingernails grow faster than they used to. My eyes are more sensitive to light. I hear high-pitched frequencies that other people don't notice. And sometimes, ... I crave the dark. That's when I knew I had to document everything. Every rule, every break, every anomaly, so the next person won't go in blind. I started this journal not to save myself. It was Thursday night, or maybe Friday morning, depending on how you look at time, when the clocks stop syncing with reality. I remember because it was exactly 2:03 a.m. when the power went out. Not just the lights, everything. The coffee machine sputtered, the coolers died. Even the neon open sign outside dimmed until it was just a faint red outline bleeding into the desert dark. At first, I thought it was just a fuse. I reached under the counter for the flashlight and clicked it on. But it flickered like it didn't want to illuminate what was coming. Then I heard it. Footsteps crunching gravel outside. Steady, slow, not rushed, not panicked, deliberate. I looked at the cameras. Blank, static, nothing but a hiss. Like white noise in your ears when you've been underwater too long. I crept toward the front window, keeping the flashlight low. That's when I saw him, or it, standing between pump 3 and 4. No car, no flashlight, just a figure wrapped in something like cloth or leather, shoulders hunched, head tilted in that unnatural way birds do when they're sizing you up. I don't know how long we stared at each other. It could have been seconds, could have been hours. The figure raised one hand and pointed at the door. Not knocking, not speaking, just pointing. I didn't open it. I turned and walked slowly to the office, locked the door, and sat down, heart pounding so hard I thought it might shake the windows. Then the knocking started, not at the front door, not at the office door, from the janitor's closet again. Not banging, not aggressive, just soft, patient, rhythmic, like someone knocking with their knuckles 3 taps every 10 seconds. I remembered the note. You know me, I didn't want to know them. I didn't want to know anything else. But something told me this wasn't a night to break the routine. So I sat there, flashlight off, clutching the crowbar I keep under the desk like it would matter against whatever was behind that door. The knocking eventually stopped, but the power didn't come back. Instead, a low hum filled the air. I thought it was the generators kicking in, but no lights returned. Just that noise, vibrating through the floor, up my spine, into my teeth, and then I smelled it. Burnt sugar, like caramel left on the stove, too long, sticky and acrid. The same smell I noticed the first night I saw the girl at pump 4. I turned the monitors, static, again except one screen. The outside camera facing the desert road. A single frame, a car, headlights off, parked sideways on the shoulder. The trunk was open, a hand dangled from the side. Not moving, just ... There I blinked and the image vanished, replaced by static like the others. I tried to breathe, tried to slow my heart. That's when I noticed the new rule taped to the wall above the desk. It hadn't been there before. Rule number 14. If the power goes out after 2 a.m., do not exit the building until sunrise. If someone comes to the door, they are not lost. They are looking for you. I didn't sleep the rest of the shift. I sat with the crowbar and waited for dawn. Around 5:47 a.m., the lights came back. All at once, no flicker, no warning. Just full power, like nothing had happened. The humming stopped. The smell vanished. The closet door remained shut. I stepped out cautiously, looked around. Nothing was broken. Nothing was moved. The world had reset, like the night never happened, except the note remained. Rule number 14, still taped above the desk in bold red ink. No one else mentioned the outage. Rob didn't ask why the cameras were dead, and I didn't ask why there was now a lock on the outside of the janitor closet, a lock I didn't install. I told myself it was just a precaution, that maybe I was letting fear cloud my judgment. But deep down, I knew the truth. The station knew I saw something, and it was adjusting accordingly, reacting, learning, preparing. That's when I stopped thinking of the rules as instructions and started seeing them for what they really were, warnings. Not about how to survive, but about what happens if you don't. Each rule wasn't just a message, it was a story. Friday night was quieter than usual, almost like the place was apologizing for the chaos of the night before. I came in early, just after 10 p.m., to give myself time to settle. The store was clean. The shelves were fully stocked. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and old rubber mats. I tried to convince myself everything would be normal tonight, but deep down, I knew what was coming. Rule number 4, the one rule I had never seen broken. The one rule that always had a faint smear of something, maybe dried blood, maybe rust beside it. Rule number 4, do not feed the man at pump 6. That's it. No explanation, no time frame, just that. For months, I had read it and never questioned it because pump 6 was broken, wrapped in yellow caution tape with a handwritten out-of-order sign hanging limply from the hose. It didn't even have a functioning keypad. But that night, when I went out to take the trash, I saw something that stopped me cold. The caution tape was gone, the hose was hanging loose, and a black sedan was parked at pump 6, engine idling. Windows blacked out, no lights, no plates. I froze in the doorway, trash bag still in hand, and stared at it. Something about the way it sat there, humming softly, like a growl under its breath, made the air feel thicker. I backed into the store and locked the door, checked the monitor. The car was there, but the feed kept glitching frames, skipping timecode, freezing for minutes at a time. I checked the clock, 11:59 p.m. Then the bell above the door rang. Number 1 came in, just the bell, as if someone opened the door and closed it without entering. I looked up, no one. I walked slowly toward the counter when I saw something slide under the front door. A crumpled $5 bill and a bag of peanuts, the kind we don't sell. Old-style packaging, yellowed, unopened. I didn't pick them up. I stood there, watching. Then I heard the voice. It came from the intercom above the door, the one that's been broken since I started. It crackled for a moment, then cleared. A low, hoarse whisper. "I'm hungry." I didn't answer. My throat was dry, my legs frozen. The intercom hissed. "Again, you have it." That's when I noticed my hand, still holding the trash bag, but the bag wasn't full of trash anymore. It was heavy, warm, and something inside shifted like raw meat. I dropped it instantly. The bag split open and spilled what looked like red-soaked cloth, bones, and something else I couldn't bring myself to name. I staggered back. The intercom whispered once more. "You took too long." Then silence. The lights flickered and the power surged. The monitors went to black, and the door began to rattle, not shake. Not bang, just a slow, steady pressure, like someone testing the frame. I ran to the back and locked the office door. On the desk was a new note, a new rule, taped hastily, the ink still wet. Rule number 17. If you are offered money after midnight, do not accept it. If food appears that you didn't sell, do not touch it. If the man at pump 6 asks again, it's already too late. I didn't sleep. I didn't even sit. I stood there until the lights returned around 6:03 a.m. When I stepped outside, the car was gone. No tire marks, no trace. But pump 6 was leaking something thick and dark onto the pavement. The smell was sweet and metallic. I quit that morning. I packed my bag, turned in the keys, and walked away. But later that evening, when I went to toss my uniform in the trash behind my apartment, it was there again. The bag of peanuts, sitting on top of the lid, untouched, sealed, waiting. I didn't bring it inside. I didn't throw it away. I left it. But when I returned from work, the next night at my new job, the peanuts were in my mailbox, and the $5 bill had been taped to my door. The message was clear. I hadn't quit. The gas station hadn't let me go. And rule number 4, that wasn't a suggestion. It was a line I had already stepped over. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, fully dressed, every muscle tense, as if waiting for something to crawl out of the walls. I kept replaying the moment I saw the peanuts in my mailbox, the way they sat there like a curse wrapped in cellophane. I thought I had left it all behind, that quitting would save me. But that morning, when I opened my phone, my call log showed 5 missed calls from pump 6. A number that doesn't exist, a number with all 6s. 666, 666, 666, 666. No voicemail, just static if I called back. I tried to convince myself it was a prank, a glitch, anything but what it really was. But the rules don't glitch. They don't follow you unless you've broken one. That evening, I received a letter in my apartment mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a note written in the same shaky handwriting as the original rule sheet. "You're still on shift." That was it. I looked around. Nobody, but I knew it had followed me home. That night, my apartment lights began flickering every time the clock hit 3:33 a.m. My hallway would stretch longer than it was supposed to, and doors would click shut without wind. I stayed awake, exhausted, paranoid, feeling like I'd brought a piece of Route 666 with me. I tried calling my manager. The number rang once, then played the sound of heavy breathing before disconnecting. I tried visiting the gas station during the day, just to prove to myself it was still just a building. But when I drove past it at noon, it was gone. Empty lot, dust, as if it had never been there. The only thing that remained was pump 6, still standing in the middle of nothing. I parked across the road and walked toward it. Each step felt harder than the last, like walking into a storm you can't see. When I reached it, I saw a new sign taped to the nozzle. "Next time, you feed him." The words were burned into the paper, the edges charred. I backed away slowly, turned around, and the gas station was back. The pumps, the lights, the flickering open sign, everything. But now it looked different. Older, decayed, windows boarded, like it had aged decades in a day. I ran back to my car and drove home, but I wasn't alone. Every mirror I passed reflected a figure sitting in my back seat, motionless, head turned slightly toward me. When I stopped the car and turned around, nothing, but the seatbelt was buckled. My apartment door was unlocked. I never left it that way. Inside, everything looked normal until I opened the fridge. The peanuts were inside, perfectly chilled, sitting next to an unopened can of gasoline. A post-it stuck to the door said, "Hungry." I packed my things and drove to a motel 2 towns over. I paid in cash. I gave a fake name. I thought I was safe, until the TV in my room turned on by itself at exactly 3:33 a.m. Static, then a voice. The same voice from the intercom. "You took too long," I screamed. I unplugged the TV, but the voice kept playing. I smashed the screen, but the sound echoed from the shower drain. I left that night, slept in my car for days, but it didn't matter. The rules had changed. They weren't confined to the gas station anymore. I had brought them with me. I stopped thinking about escape. That word had no meaning anymore. The only real question left was how to survive each night without losing my mind, or worse, becoming like the others. I started writing down patterns, looking for clues buried. In the chaos, the breathing from the drains always came at 3:33 a.m., followed by a single knock from inside the closet. Always one knock. If I ignored it, nothing happened. But the one night I whispered, "Go away," it responded, "Then feed him." From that point forward, the rules weren't just rules. They were conversations, transactions, a constant negotiation with whatever forces ran that cursed stretch of road. One night, I tried driving as far as I could, just kept going west. The further I drove, the more I noticed the highway signs repeating, as if I were in a loop. Route 666, eastbound. Next station, 6 miles. Again and again. When I finally stopped, the gas tank read empty. But I hadn't filled it since I fled the station. The meter was stuck at 6.66 gallons. That night, I slept in the car. Or tried to. I woke up cold. The windows were fogged up from the inside, and on the windshield was written backward, from the inside shift never ended. I screamed and turned the key. The car started on the first try, but the radio came on by itself. Just a voice counting. Rule 1, don't stare. Rule 2, don't answer questions. Rule 3, never open the freezer. Rule 4, Rule 4. Rule 4, it looped endlessly until I yanked the wires out. But even in silence, I could hear it, like the rules were echoing through my bones. That's when I realized this was no longer about breaking a rule. It was about being claimed. If you hear the voice outside your window more than once, you're marked. If the number 333 appears on your phone without being set, you're marked. If you ever, even once, look directly into Pump 6's reflection through the station window, you're marked. And I had done all 3. The only difference between me and the others was that I hadn't given in yet. I hadn't fed him, but I was close, too close. Sleep became a battleground. I set alarms every hour just to keep from drifting too far. But when I did fall asleep, I dreamed of gas pumps lined like tombstones, all hissing the same question. What will you give? And the answer, if you didn't answer, was always taken anyway. I once woke up missing all the photos from my phone, every single memory. I started to forget my name. Not all at once, but in pieces, like someone was erasing me slowly from a chalkboard I never knew I was written on. One morning I think it was morning, though the sun never truly rose, any more I stared at my ID badge for over 5 minutes, trying to remember if that was really me. The photo looked wrong, too pale, the eyes too still, and the name, Zachary, felt like someone else's story stitched over mine. I tried calling my sister again, just to hear something real, but the number wasn't in my contacts anymore. None of them were. My phone only had one saved number now, labeled manager. I didn't dial it. I didn't dare, because somehow I knew he would answer before the first ring. That night, I cleaned the station like always, except something was off. The windows were all fogged from the inside. I wiped them with a towel and found handprints, 6 of them long, smudged, all facing inward. But no alarms had been triggered. I checked the security footage and saw nothing. Just static between 2:59 a.m. and 3:34 a.m. A full 35 minutes wiped. I replayed it again and again, frame by frame, until suddenly, in a single corrupted frame, there it was. Pump 6, but not empty. A figure stood there, tall, still, head slightly tilted toward the camera. The screen froze on that image and refused to play again. I unplugged the whole system, but it didn't matter. When I closed my eyes that night, I saw the figure again, this time inside the station, standing behind the coffee rack, then closer, behind the counter, always still, always watching. Rule 4 was no longer about interaction. It was containment. A wall I had to hold in place with every moment of silence, every moment of stillness. The man at pump 6 didn't want attention. He wanted acknowledgement. The tiniest break, a glance, a whisper, even a thought, and he would move. The next shift, I wore headphones. No music, just white noise. I kept my head down, my eyes away from the monitors. I stopped cleaning. I stopped checking pumps. I sat in the back room and stared at a blank wall for 6 hours, pretending the world outside didn't exist. At 4 a.m., the white noise stopped. Dead silence. No click, no static, just ... nothing. Then came the knock. Not on the front door, on the wall behind me, the one that faced no room, the one that touched the black void between the station and the cliff. I froze. Not even my breath dared to move. Then came the whisper, not in my ear, not in the room, but inside my head. You're beginning to understand. I wanted to scream, but I knew the rules. No response, knowing I made a mistake. Not a big one, not at first. Just ... a glance. Around 2:47 a.m., I caught motion on the edge of my peripheral vision. Something shifting behind the glass door near the snack aisle. I should have looked away. I knew that. Every inch of my spine screamed to hold still. But I turned, just my head, just a little, and that was enough. It was standing there, not moving, not breathing. A tall, wet shape, cloaked in something like leather or skin or both, glistening under the red exit sign's glow. Its head was pressed against the glass, not peeking in, just pressed, as if it could see me through touch. For 5 seconds, neither of us moved. Then it smiled, not like a human, like something remembering what a smile is supposed to be. I yanked my eyes back to the floor, heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear the white noise anymore. I waited and waited, but nothing happened. I thought I got away with it, thought maybe it was just a warning. But when I checked the monitors 2 hours later, the camera feed from aisle 4 had changed. It now looped the same 5-second segment, the figure staring in, over and over. Then, just as I was about to look away, it changed, just for a frame. The figure wasn't outside anymore, it was inside. Behind me, the tape glitched again, returning to the original loop. That's when the lights began to buzz. One by one, they dimmed slightly. Not enough to trigger alarm, just enough to shift the shadows, to move the dark shapes across the floor like slow, deliberate hands. I retreated to the supply closet, the only place without windows. I locked the door, turned off the light, and counted my breaths. 57 in, 57 out. Somewhere between breath 30 and 40, the temperature dropped. Not just cold, wrong. Like standing next to a freezer filled with dead animals. Like the kind of cold that doesn't come from lack of heat, but from something that wants you to stop existing. Then came the whisper again, the same voice. Only now, it said, you looked. Now, you see. That was it. Just that. But it was enough to undo something in me. That night, I didn't clean. I didn't check pumps. I didn't refill shelves. I sat on the closet floor. I returned for the next shift, even though everything in me screamed not to. My hand shook as I unlocked the front door, but the station greeted me like nothing had happened. Coffee machine humming, coolers humming, buzzing fluorescent lights, as steady as ever. The only thing off was the smell, faint, metallic, like old coins and something burnt. I thought it might be the wiring, but then I noticed the photo again, the employee of the month frame. This time, the glass was cracked, and someone had scrawled a word at the bottom in red marker. Traitor. I blinked, looked away, looked back. It was gone. No crack, no word, just that blank photo again. I needed answers. The handbook never mentioned any of this. The rules were clear, but they didn't prepare me for hallucinations, voices, or vanishing shadows. So I did the one thing I'd avoided for weeks. I called the manager. His voicemail picked up immediately. I left a message, unsure what I even meant to say. But before I could hang up, the line clicked. Silence, then breathing. Slow, wet, deliberate breathing. I froze. You broke Rule 4, the voice said finally. It wasn't the manager. I knew it instantly. It was the same whisper from the closet. You invited it in. I slammed the phone down, tried to convince myself I imagined it. But the receipt printer began spitting out paper on its own. One after another, I pulled them out. Each one had the same phrase. Don't turn around. Again and again. Then the last one read, it's behind you. I didn't move. I held my breath for 10 full seconds, then darted forward into the restroom and locked the door. That's when the light began to flicker again, and I realized the station wasn't glitching. It was responding, learning, adapting to me. There was something intelligent behind the rules, and it wasn't on my side. I dug through the supply closet later and found a sealed envelope tucked behind a stack of mop heads. It was old, yellowed, brittle. It had one word written in block letters: confession. Inside was a letter, typed, faint and misaligned, as if written on an ancient typewriter. To whoever replaces me, it began, the rules are a lie. They aren't protection. They're bait, a test. Break one and it sees you. Break two and it learns you. Break three, ... and you're no longer you, the letter went on. It told of a previous employee who had tried to burn the handbook. The station rewrote it overnight. Another had tried to leave mid-shift. They found his car, doors locked, engine still running, no trace of him inside. Just a sticky black residue where the driver's seat should have been. The final paragraph warned, there is no manager. The next shift started like any other, but something had changed. I didn't know what exactly, only that it felt heavier. The air, the silence. Even the flickering lights seemed slower, more deliberate, like the station itself was breathing. I kept hearing faint ticking from somewhere behind the back wall, like a grandfather clock buried inside the concrete. I tried to ignore it, but it synced up with my heartbeat, matching me beat for beat, second for second. I couldn't shake the letter's last sentence. You are the offering. That phrase looped in my head like a song stuck on repeat. I wandered to the supply closet again, looking for the envelope, but it had turned to ash. Black, flaky, fine. As powder, no sign it had ever existed. And that's when the register beeped. A customer, but the cameras showed no one. Not at the pumps, not at the doors, nothing. Still, I walked toward the counter and found a pack of gum sitting there. Up. The drawer opened. It expected me to ring it up. I scanned it. The receipt printer spit out a blank sheet. Then another, then another. I leaned in and saw something faint, invisible, unless held under the overhead light. A map, a crude, hand-drawn layout of the station. One hallway was circled in red, marked "Do not enter until called." I had never seen that hallway before, and the weirdest part, it was behind the freezer. I pushed the freezer aside, revealing a thin door barely wide. Enough to slip through, no knob, just a slit 4 fingers. I didn't go in, not yet. I waited, sat, listened, read the rulebook again. Page 17 had changed. Rule number 4 was now printed in bold, red font. Never open the back hallway unless you've heard your own voice come from the door. That sentence alone nearly made me vomit. My own voice. What the hell did that even mean? But I understood something more chilling. The rules weren't just about behavior, they were a sequence. A ritual. Each broken rule escalated the stakes. And I had already broken rule for when I listened to the closet and let the voice out. So now the station was pushing me forward, offering me a way in or a way out. Around 3:06 a.m., I dozed off. At the register, just for a second, maybe 2. But I awoke to a sound I cannot forget. My own voice, whispering from behind the freezer door, saying, "Hey, you forgot to lock up." I stood, paralyzed. That was my voice. Same tone, same tempo, same tired rasp. I hadn't spoken out loud for hours, and now my voice was beckoning from behind a door that shouldn't exist. The handbook gave me 2 choices: obey the rule and stay out, or break it and see what came next. I don't remember walking down that hallway. I remember stepping in, but everything after is flashes, like fragments of a dream stitched together by something that doesn't sleep. There was a chair bolted to the floor, a table with a single item on it, a key, Not a modern key, but old, iron hand-forged, with teeth shaped like runes I couldn't read. The walls pulsed with a red glow, but there was no source. And the deeper I walked, the more I heard whispers, not just in my voice, but in every voice I'd ever heard. My mother, my old boss, the radio host one listened to on night drives, all repeating one phrase over and over: "Do not let the pump hit zero." It made no sense until I realized what they meant. The gas station, it wasn't feeding cars, it was feeding something else. And when the pump hits zero, it gets hungry. I found a second door at the end of the hallway, marked with the number 666. The sign below read, "For custodians only." I'm not a custodian, but the key fit. When I turned it, I heard a long sigh, as if the building itself exhaled. The door opened into a circular room, stone walls, torches lit without fire, and a mural of a black sun carved into the ceiling. In the center, a podium with the handbook, thicker now, expanded with new rules. I opened to the middle. New Rule 10. If you have heard the voice, you must now feed it. That's when I saw the list beneath names, hundreds of them each, crossed out until the bottom. Jack W., my name, not crossed out, still fresh, still inkwet. The room shook. Something behind the wall scratched. I ran. I don't remember how I got out, but I stumbled back into the main station. Heart racing, hands covered in soot, the freezer door wide open. I had been gone for 3 minutes, but the clock on the wall said it was 6:45 a.m. My shift was over. The sun was rising. Customers began to pull in. Normal people, normal cars, as if nothing had happened. I cleaned up, wiped the counter, looked outside. Nothing strange, until I saw the pump screen. It blinked. Message: 1.2 gallons remaining. I froze. The voice from the hallway whispered again, faint but unmistakable: "You have until empty." That was the real job. Not to sell snacks or check IDs, but to make sure that pump never ran dry. That whatever was beneath us, inside us, connected through the pipes and stone, and rust never woke up completely. Because when it does, it won't whisper anymore. It will feed, and I'll be the first course. So I did what the handbook told me. I wrote the new version, updated the rules. I took the rest of that day off, called in and told them I was sick. They didn't question it. Maybe they knew. Maybe that was part of it. But I spent the day in silence. No music, no TV, just the hum of my refrigerator and the ticking of a wall clock. It was the only sound I trusted now. The next night, I drove back, not because I wanted to, but because the rule book was still in my bag and I hadn't crossed my name out yet. It sounds crazy, but I felt like I owed it something, like I'd made a deal I didn't remember signing. The station looked normal, too normal. Lights on, door unlocked, no sign of the morning chaos. I stepped inside, and the air felt still, like a paused movie. Even the buzzing neon was silent. There was a note on the counter, same handwriting as the rules. It said, "Jack, the storm is ahead. Keep the pump above 1 gallon tonight, no matter what." Below that, in red ink, rule number 12. If a customer comes in without a face, serve them like normal. Do not acknowledge their condition. If you do, they will ask what they look like. You must not answer. My stomach turned. I wasn't ready for this. But it was already 10:59 p.m. I had 1 minute to breathe before the door opened. And it did, on the dot. A man walked in. Normal clothes, normal walk. But his face, it was like static on a broken TV. Blurred and shifting like a dream you forget as soon as you wake up. He walked to the counter, placed a can of Monster and a bag of chips down, and said, "Busy night." The voice was wrong. It echoed, not through the room, but through my skull. I nodded, didn't speak, rang him up, hands trembling. He slid a 10 across the counter, fingers long and sharp, like they'd been stretched. "Keep the change," he said, then paused. "How do I look tonight?" My throat locked. He tilted his head. "Do I look human yet?" My instinct screamed. To lie, to say yes, to say anything, but the rule was clear. I stared at the register screen, blinking like it would save me. After 5 seconds of silence, he nodded slowly. "Smart one." He walked out. The door didn't chime, and he didn't leave footprints. I ran to the rulebook, flipped the pages. New ink formed. Rule number 13. They will test you. Every night from now on, do not fail. One failure feeds the storm. I looked at the pump. 1.1 gallons. Still above the limit. But I knew this night wasn't over, because the handbook had more pages than before. It was growing, rewriting itself with every test. And somewhere in the back, a final rule waited, unwritten, hungry. The wind picked up just past 2 a.m. Not the usual desert breeze, but something colder, meaner, as if the night itself had teeth. The windows began to rattle, but there was no dust outside, just thick, pressing darkness like ink spilled across. The world, I checked the pumps, still above 1 gallon, but the display flickered, once, twice, then went out. The lights in the store dimmed, not off completely, just like they were holding their breath. Then I heard it. A low humming, mechanical, like an engine idling in the distance. I stepped outside and saw headlights, far down Route 666, unmoving, pointed right at me. I waited. The hum grew louder. The car didn't move. I stepped back inside and locked the door. A page in the rulebook turned itself. Rule number 14. If the car with no driver arrives, do not let it stop at pump 4. Pump 4 is the gateway. If the engine dies, so do you. My legs weakened. Pump 4 was closest to the building, barely 10 feet from the glass, and the lights above, it were already blinking. The car started rolling forward. No sound of acceleration, just a steady, impossible glide. I ran to the breaker room and shut off all the pumps, but pump 4 flickered back on by itself. The car crept into the station. Lot, tires not turning, floating more than driving. It pulled into pump 4 and stopped. The hum ceased. Silence. Then the engine sputtered once, twice, a third time, and I could feel my heart beat in my throat. I had seconds. I sprinted to the service counter, grabbed a gas can, and without thinking, without breathing, dashed outside. I poured exactly 1.1 gallons into the tank. The moment the nozzle clicked, the car's headlights went dark. The hum returned. The car reversed smoothly, turned around, and rolled back into the blackness of the road, disappearing as if it had never existed. My breath was short, shallow. My hands were shaking. Then a new sound. Not the humming, not the wind, something worse. A knock from inside the storage freezer. I stared at the door, metal, locked, frosted window now fogged with breath. A message appeared in the condensation, as if drawn by a finger. You're learning. I didn't move, didn't dare blink. But the fog faded and the room was quiet again. I returned to the counter, heart still pounding, and watched the rule book shimmer. Rule number 15 wrote itself slowly. They are aware now. Your survival is no longer inconvenient, it is offensive. From here forward, the tests will no longer be passive. You must choose who suffers. If you refuse, you suffer alone. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I knew the car would be back. And next time, it wouldn't be alone. I didn't sleep that morning. I didn't even sit down. I just stared out through the store window as the sky brightened, slightly, never quite reaching day. Just a dull grey that let you know time had passed but comfort was still out of reach. Every minute felt stretched, like time had lost its grip and was smearing forward. I made coffee I wouldn't drink, mopped floors that weren't dirty, just to feel like something was under my control. At 7 a.m., the front door chimed. A woman walked in early, 40s, maybe, to clean for this place, wearing a navy raincoat that hadn't seen any rain. Her smile was too wide, too even. Busy night, she asked. Her voice was soft but somehow still cut through the hum of the cooler. You could say that, I replied, trying to sound casual. She walked the aisles slowly, fingers brushing across the chip bags without ever picking one up. I hear the night shift here can be ... intense. I didn't respond. She turned and looked me straight in the eye. Do you know why this station still exists? My mouth opened but no sound came out. It's not just gas, you know. Not anymore. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her coat and placed it on the counter. Then, without another word, she left. I waited until the door closed behind her to open it. It was a page from the rulebook, but it was different typed. Crisp, not handwritten like the others. Rule number 16. If a stranger delivers a message and does not blink, do not speak your name. If you already did, bury the name under the soil before midnight, or it becomes theirs. I replayed the conversation in my head. Had I said my name? Wasn't sure. I couldn't remember. Panic started crawling up the back of my spine like ants beneath the skin. Outside, clouds were gathering fast, swirling low like smoke caught in a jar. Thunder rolled, but not from above. It came from below. A deep vibration through the floor tiles, as if something was waking up underneath the desert. I grabbed a shovel from the maintenance closet. No plan, no logic, just instinct. There was an old flower bed on the south side of the station, long dead, full of dry, cracked soil. I ran to it, dug with frantic hands, dirt flying, fingers bleeding. At the bottom, I pulled out something smooth, cold, a name tag. Mine, I hadn't buried it. Someone else had. It was waiting for me. I dropped it back in, threw dirt over it, pressed my palms against the soil like sealing a grave. The rumble stopped. Just like that, the wind stilled. I stood there breathing hard, blood on my knuckles, dirt in my teeth. And I realized I wasn't protecting myself from them. I was protecting them from something worse. The rule book wasn't keeping me alive. It was keeping the world safe from this place. Since that night, I stopped asking questions. I don't wonder who writes the rules, or why some are crossed out and others rewritten in fresh ink. I don't question the faces on the security cameras that don't match the people who entered. I don't ask about the radio static that sometimes speaks my name in my mother's voice. Even though she's been dead for years, I follow the rules. I update the rulebook when it changes, which it does, pages added without my notice, instructions that make no sense until you realize they were warnings for what's already passed. The gas station doesn't care if I'm tired. It doesn't care if I'm scared. It only cares that I obey. Sometimes travelers pull in, dazed, like they've forgotten what road they're on. Their GPS never shows our location. They step inside for a drink and forget why they stopped. Some of them stay too long. They break a rule they never read. Then they disappear. No one comes looking. No one ever does. The desert takes what it's owed, but I stay, not because I'm brave, and not because I'm trapped, though some nights I wonder if I ever left that first shift. I stay because someone has to. Someone has to remember the rules. Someone has to warn the next poor soul who thinks a night shift in the middle of nowhere is just an easy paycheck. It's not. It's a contract. It's a test. And once you punch in your part of the station, it watches you. It adjusts to you. And if you're lucky, it lets you live. The worst part, you start to feel like you belong. Like the hum of the freezer and the flicker of the overhead lights are your lullaby. Like the things you see aren't strange. They're familiar. Home, there's one final rule scratched on the inside of the supply closet, barely visible under the peeling paint. Rule number 0. If you survive long enough to rewrite this book, don't. I think I understand now. Survival isn't victory. It's the beginning of the next cycle. Someone will take my place someday. I'll just be another whispered story. Another photo with blurred edges in the break room. Another voice on the static radio. So if you're listening, if you're reading, this don't break rule number 4, or any of them. This isn't a warning, it's a confession, and the door just opened behind me.